Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 3 of Illium, our lightly modded CS1 build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Last episode, we got the port of Francis up and running as our first bit of star industry, which of course lies next to the town of Francis, which today will grow out in a population expansion as we bid to push toward our first major public transport infrastructure. We'll introduce trams and also a ferry stop today, although the ferries won't be operating for a few more episodes. But today's episode, I really want to push towards getting trains, so we begin to form transit hubs around the train network that runs in this bit of the city. We'll settle in, get some snacks. Let's get started, shall we? So with the keys in Francis, we saw in episode 1 and 2 just how busy they can get, and they've remained as busy in fact. Perhaps the most walkable keys we've ever seen in CS1, at least this early in the city. Very nice indeed. And as Francis grows out today, I'd like to discuss the importance of developing what is going to be our first transit hub. Now we have a few thousand people in, it's a good idea to give them a centre where they can then span out in many different directions, and to keep the idea in mind as we keep building the city as well, to keep interlinking these transit centres together. Across the map, Rannoch was probably our best ever example of this for those that followed that series. Rannoch had many busy transit hubs all across its suburbs. So let's carry on our key. We'll stick with the vanilla one. So just extending that key down to another little peninsula that kind of juts out into the water here. And then using move it to set everyone to the same height and pushing our terrain layer back against the road, which we need to decide what we're going to do with. I think again I don't really want any chunky 4 lanes in Francis, so I think we'll stick with small all the way down to the highway, which will develop properly today actually, because we're right by the boundary there. And then let's discuss our first hub. So mentioned the monorail is going to feature quite heavily. We don't get that until 8,000 though, unlocking at the same time as trains. So a train monorail hub will likely be our second hub in 5,000 people's time, give or take. But our first hub will be buses and ferries, I think, which would be an awful lot of fun. So I'll use the small ferry stop for Francis. Or we'll use the ferry pier. Have 2 leaving from this way. Is maybe a bit big though for this side of the city. We'll definitely get lots of these in, I think, over here. I mean, I guess we'll build a line in today anyway, so we'll use that as well. But that's a downtown hub that'll be built, of course, at a much later date. So with the ferry hub, let's place it down. And then I want to position it so it's just facing onto the corner like this. Set it to the same height as the key nodes as well. And then just adjust this as best we can. I'm not bothered about a little bit of encroachment here. Even, how about sinking it down so it's with the key? I know that affects the terrain around us, but we can hide that. One more step so it doesn't clip with the planter. And also the trees actually kind of happily avoid the station naturally there anyway, so I think that'll be quite nice. If you're on vanilla here, you can simply just angle your station at one of these keys here without having this particular orientation. And then with the roads, I could follow the key, I think. I think I will for a little bit. I don't want it to come straight out. And then here, we'll curve back into our arterial. And then down this way, I want lots more attractions, parks, possibly our first unique building today as well. Just line that up so that's super flush with the key. Very nice. That's ferries taken care of. We actually need the hub as well. Now, as we expand, I think, into this district over here, once this rail yard area opens up, which people weren't too bothered about me maybe grabbing some train props so I can decorate that train yard. So I'll turn them on for when we get to that episode, just so we can have the visual of parked trains, you know. Like I mentioned, don't want to get too custom asset heavy. And then over here, we will connect this around. Obviously, we're not so close to the key one day. Oh, there we go. We do have the port thing here. We can see the shipping lane. I queried that last episode, didn't I? So that's in for ferries, and I'm just going to put this in very temporarily for right now. Please ignore this. Everyone close your eyes. But if I hook it in, it might get some use in the episode. But of course, this is not the downtown transit hub. You know what, could you imagine? I did that. That was like, welcome to downtown transit hub, everyone. And just put it out like a totally serious episode. Just didn't acknowledge it for the whole build. Maybe for an April Fool's one day. With our... I think I might switch... No, I'll keep it vanilla. I think that'll be too harsh a transition. We'll keep this whole... At least this town of Francis. Imagine whatever sits over here. We have more rail yard configuration too. I envision a lot of this side of the coast being quite industrial. So factory builds along here and whatnot in the subsequent episode as we tick off the industries. Super looking forward to a modded campus as well, everyone, my word. I really hope you're all looking forward to that. Love my campuses. So more residential pretty much all the way through here. Let's keep that population growing, and then we'll turn to look at the buses that are going to join those ferries in a second as well. Try and maximise some decent zonable squares here. Leave a little bit of room for that, what will probably be a roundabout to develop. Cool, so that'll keep our milestones ticking along. Now our current bus solutions, we don't have any hubs I think until 8,000, isn't it? 5,000. Which will give us the intercity bus station, which so close to the highway, I think is definitely the best way to do that then, isn't it? But we also need to find a more permanent place for our cemetery as well. Which I don't mind it here. It's just clipping with the roads a little bit. We can probably fix this there with a touch and move it. That's pretty much alright actually, isn't it? And then just delete that fence with the intersection marking tool. And then I might even just paint out a little bit of a frontage the graveyard while that population grows up. Can I get on the dividing line with the surface painter here? Basically can, yeah. Okay, let's fill out this little corner then. So I'll just have the graveyard here as a bit of a feature on Main Street. And I suppose I'll paint this side up as well. Something you can do while you're waiting for your population to grow, you know? A little bit of personality. Let's search and find it for parking decals. There's many of them. And then I think I'll use the vanilla ones because they have kind of a slightly worn paint effect, if you like. Place 3 of these down. And then I'll place those there. And then search for a bollard from plazas. And we'll set these to be 3. And then let's just run those along the edge of this car park here. Almost kind of marking your way into the church's car park, right? I reckon even there's probably some nice signage from Railroads of Japan that would complement here. Another wonderful content creator pack, by the way. And if you're missing railroads, get some very nice... You get the train police headquarters of Railroads of Japan. But a little bit of parking signage. If we even get this here, this will work, won't it? We'll line this up with the bollards. Kind of face it out onto the street. And then stick another one there. That sign is just happens to be in the shade at the moment. As you can see. It's very dark. Just move this one around. There we go. That's the impression we want. Special. Oh, I love the highway elevation here. It's not a flat map by any means, Tranquillity Cove. The shores are fairly buildable, but elsewhere it does get pretty wild. I'm looking forward to having some fun. But I like that. I think maybe even some roadies and a kid onto the front and into the graveyard as well would also be nice. Let's do 1, 2, and 3. And then even leave a little space so they can walk through the graveyard. So I think that's quite cute, isn't it? Doesn't that just look like a nice natural extension to fill what is an awkward space that generates out the front of any service asset, really? But I think I really like that. Nicer way to use the graveyard asset too. Let's also add some roadies into the asset as well, right? Maybe some oaks too. Can do this with Bob, of course, but I think Anarchy is just a bit more in the moment again. Would remove the vanilla trees, but I don't really hate them now, to be honest. Right, so Vanilla Plus Graveyard. Isn't that so much nicer? This isn't really Vanilla Plus, is it? This is lightly modded Graveyard. Can't get away with calling this Vanilla Plus, of course. But hello people, welcome on in. So to continue rocketing toward that milestone so we can get the intercity bus station in. Let me also do the ferries as well, so we can see them. We also get to choose our model, don't we? I always forget there's ferry models that were added in that update, wasn't there? So we also have a debt to pay to the ferry police, because in Rannoch, in hindsight and admission, ferry system didn't make an awful lot of sense. It just kind of moved people along the shores, which trams, train, metro and buses were already doing in enormous volume. And they should have gone really much back and forth. Now, there was a few points in Rannoch where you could cross back and forth, but not the whole system. So that's what we'll remedy here. A lot of Illium's ferry systems will be taking people back and to from shore to shore rather than along the shores. Because we're going to have trams and trains doing all that anyway for us, so. Ferry police rejoice, I hope, because that's what's going to happen. I think we'll go straight up big boy, straight up 70 capacity ferry immediately. We'll future plan for that. So I want some emerging downtowns, mixed use vibes along here too. And I think, do we have pedestrian road yet? When do we unlock that? Just wants a pedestrian area service point, doesn't it? Yeah, we do have it, so we'll definitely pedestrianize this. In terms of where we want to put the service point, this will be a good time to factor this in. Oh, was that a milestone? No, just a autosave. Sip of tea. I think I'll just factor the service point in on the main road commercial. Be some nice detailing for that. But that should give us pedestrian roads. Yes, please, it does. Plazas and promenades. Easily one of the most must-buy DLCs that Cities 1 had. If you don't have it. I'll use this as an opportunity to demonstrate another feature of the wonderful network multi-tool. You guys were really on board for some updated 2025 mod basic tutorials as well. So I'm going to make those in the Illium series, so they will be around. Keep an eye out for them. But network multi-tool has a parallel mode, which is very handy. So we select our nodes. I'm going to go from this one all the way down, not to the very end, maybe here. Okay, and this will put whatever network you have selected in parallel with that network. Now on your tooltip here, on your cursor, you can see there's a number of shortcuts. In this particular instance, I want to change the offset because it's too far from the key. So the minus key on your keyboard will do that. There's many different things this mod can do. This being one of the more amazing features of it. Again, I'll cover more of network multi-tool in the network multi-tool episode. And that looks pretty flush with me. When you're happy, hit enter, and that network will be drawn in perfectly parallel. Super cool feature, especially for big, long stretches of parallel network you want. Sometimes if you just want to draw a frontage road in, you know, it is quicker just to snap in to no snapping in the grid, and then you can just do it yourself in some instances. But for longer stretches, it's really useful, but it's a bit overkill for smaller ones. But great feature of the mod. Really like it. And then in terms of connection, we can just grab this road here now. And I'm not massively precious about that one, to be honest, so we can reform the joining of the arterial. We'll have that. And I might even keep the pedestrian. I also don't even know if I'm staying sandstone. I imagine I probably will. I'm not going to tree line it because the key is tree lined, and as we know, it can get too spicy. I think we'll just have this one as grass lined. So with the pedestrian areas, they are charged by size. And I do want a good chunk of this district to be pedestrianised. Especially down here. If you search for MP in Find It, it will bring up your emerging downtown assets. So let's plop down plenty of this mixed use looking commercial down the main road here. And there's the Busy Town milestone, which gives us the buses, a whole bunch of policies as well. Tourism also unlocks. Let's do all the poppable interchanges, or at least a couple of them. And a whole bunch nice new big roads as well. Super. It's really busy town, you get a lot of stuff here. That's where the game gets quite exciting. But I was just in the middle of putting all those together with Move It. And then through here, we'll surface paint out the back of our service point. And probably have all this space as concrete here, to be honest. Likely with some more commercial detailing at the back. It should bring a tidy-ish end to the service point there too. Nice and detailable with fences, of course. And now that finally Shops of Shibuya has lifted its embargo, why don't we create a bit of a Shops of Shibuya front here if we like. See what we can get going on. We explored a bit with these assets during a recent live stream, which was a lot of fun. We'll bring in some ideas from that. This asset, I think I'm going to spin you around in a potential possible marriage to sit together like this. And grabbing both of them and just pushing them off. Both of these will likely need a bit of building spawn points. Just to push it onto the road so they still get serviced. There we go. So it's a pretty nice asset pack, Shops of Shibuya. You can get some fun, really versatile assets. Let's move down to low density. And we'll place some of the... some of the Korean assets wouldn't be amiss here. Might squeeze a few of these in. After all this sort of mixed use apartments, cafes, and let's also get some emerging downtowns, high density residential in here too. I think emerging downtowns and hearts of Korea just makes for some wonderful positioning, doesn't it? You could mess about with this on vanilla if you wanted to. You just have to keep creating very small districts. It would be an absolute pain to manage. And probably stick to 4x4 zonings as well. Would be my advice for less modded players. This asset, you know, I just have car parking on it, which is fine. I think I will have a road coming up here actually. To hold some car parking service for this pedestrianised commercial front. So we'll bring it up to there, that way that car park makes sense. And now we need to tie this into something as well, don't we? So let's work on this roundabout here. So I'm just going to draw in a very small segment of road here. Just because I want the road guideline snap for my actual roundabout. So you can get the roundabout builder mod if you like. I've played with it before, but I never use it. I always find roundabouts to be more for custom spaces. I also don't have precision engineering on, do I? I need to go add that. How did it take me so long to realise I didn't have precision engineering on? So this... I should probably go 5 actually. This is a highway connection. We can delete that tiny segment now. So we'll still brace the roundabout, of course. We have Move It and Anarchy here, so there's going to be no problems with the roundabout, but we'll build it here. Let's grab these little one-way highway roads. And then just want to snake off into about basically the middle of the segment. Something like that. Don't worry about torn nodes. We will be able to fix that. With this road here, I think I'd like to end it there. Into that segment. And then this one, I'll turn node snapping off to get around this corner. And then no guideline either. And then snapping back on. And then we'll do that. And then for this road out here, it's not going to be a very long one. But we'll send that into the park. That can connect back into there. And yeah, I won't connect that back here. So we could run another frontage network here. And move it segment. We'll just adjust everyone's positioning. Bring this one down a bit here. And then a little bit of node controller on this one as well. Just want to pull our red friend forward. And here we can see where we've got too many nodes. So let's tidy that up too. Let's just pull that away there to even that segment out. I'm happy with that. Let's just grab all those central nodes, set them to one uniform height. And a bit of surface painter through here as well. Would be quite nice. Just on those connecting highway roads. I think we've got another little tight node there as well, don't we? We do. Cool. And then we'll have that as our highway entry slip system back off here. I'm just going to push the red one out a bit too. Not that much though, it was too far. Cool. So we'll decorate that up. This building here now is probably a little bit inappropriately placed. We did get the ferry tram hub as well, which we'll use in the downtown setting. It's a bit big for here. Maybe further down the coast. And let's also keep all our low density vanilla housing going in here as well. Leave a little bit of room between commercial and the road. We'll make all this space walkable, I imagine. So with the park end, I think another statue would settle in quite nicely here. Perhaps, do we have one of those big fun parks yet, I wonder? We do. I think the industrial park might actually be the choice that I go for here. Because there's going to be so much industry on this coast, eventually it will kind of have a more relevant purpose, if that makes sense. I really want to center this on the landmass. So let's say somewhere like there, I think. There's a harsher terrain dip here, so let's soften this out as the road comes into play. And then I'd love a cul-de-sac at the end here, so let's do a little tiny 2 segment. Then we'll come out again to a longer one. Work on a bit of node controller stretch at the end there. And we'll likely tree line this too. Or grass line it at least. The pedestrian road will come down and hopefully plug this entrance. How we can make that look a little more natural, I'm not quite sure yet. Maybe it's just a case of painting the concrete path out or anarching an actual pathway in there. I'm not sure if this is a walkable asset or not. It will also pop, I think, a cul-de-sac pedestrian road in here too. And we'll move this out of the way a little bit, something like that. Tidy up some trees. We will have trees here, but we'll replace our own forest. And then for the rest of the path, the park, we'll have pathway, I think. So the key won't run forever. It's probably going to break here on us. We'll probably end it where it is now. Let the natural shoreline resume. And then with this being very industrial, we'll probably go back to a sharper, more industrial key when that build exists. But until that other key comes in, I think we'll just have it as a bit of a riverside nature pathway as the town of Francis essentially falls away. We can use this as our little boundary. Let's feed this up to the peninsula as well. Something like that. Now we're not all perfectly level, which I'm not averse to. I do, however, want the asset to be level. So let's make sure we're at the same height there. Park really bends with the terrain, doesn't it? That must be one of the only one of them that does that. Now I think I'll grab all those nodes, set everyone to the same height as the cul-de-sac on the road. We could even do a pathway here. We drew out a segment and then stretch this. Let's try 150. We'll also have to do the same on that other node as well, otherwise it will look, I guess, a little bit bulbous is the term. And same here again as well, stretch out this entire node to 150%. Just widen out the pathways. You can do some really interesting things with this actually. And I don't kind of mind actually how it kind of tapers back out there, you know, just by stretching out a singular node. But the point of stretching it is to make the path fit the width of the park. Which I don't mind. It's more of a nicer drawing in, isn't it? I think just the surface painter. But that doesn't do too bad a job either, honestly, does it? I think you can do either or. So that's a nice centerpiece, and one day everyone will come back and check out this viewpoint when there's a factory sat across this bay. Make sure there's quite a big industrial infrastructure here to make sure this park has its eventual relevance. Of course you can also see the other industrial towers over there as well. Very nice. I imagine with growing populations, we're nearing the need of another school in the not too distant future. Goodness gracious, that Korean elementary is 1500. That's enormous, that's a huge capacity. But we won't need another elementary school for quite a while then. So in that case, we'll grab our high school, which isn't too far away. We're going to need one eventually. So we'll give another high school campus here, I think. How's the tile situation looking? I imagine we're getting one next milestone, are we? In terms of where I'm going to head, obviously, if you follow along 9 tiles, or vanilla, or 25 tiles, you have to be a bit more careful. I will eventually be 81, of course, so it's not a massive issue for me. I'm planning to develop a lot of my density, basically, in what's in the shot here. So keep growing your squares around this river, would be my advice on console and vanilla. I wouldn't stray too far into the mountains on 9 tiles here, because you're going to lose a lot of your riverfront, which I think is where a lot of the fun lies on this map in particular. But we'll have our campus here, I think. So let's pick up a nicer asset. Let's do Institute of Creative Arts. And I would love to have this as a bit of a feature. Like it's really prominent from the roundabout. Every time you come into Francis, you always recognise this quite peculiar shaped building. I think roundabout orientation is something we've touched on before, isn't it? It's always very nice designs. We'll come out here, we'll worry about the road connection in a second. In terms of connecting in, how is this going to be with node controller, I wonder? Wonder if we can have some fun here with a slightly more interesting junction. And I'll always warn you about your too short a segment. That's really only a problem on like a major arterial road. For a smaller campus entrance like this, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Some asymmetry is probably justified around here too, so let's bring that in. We'll have it, yeah, coming into the junction here. And then just a touch more refinement on this segment. We've got a bit of room to play with around the front of that school because it's all concrete, thankfully. Yeah, let's give them some sport facilities as well for campus. Do we have Peanut sports venues yet? We do. Fantastic. Since Rich is Scottish, we'll go for football. And rightly so. Of course. The parking, I'd love to have by the pitch, and indeed, as a result of that, behind the school. Drag that up. Cool, can I drag across the tile boundary to move it? I can, yeah. No, that's no problem at all, really. Although I'm not sure if they'll drive on it. I guess they will, right? They still drive on roads outside of the tile boundary anyway. We'll do 2. Let's have 2 of them, and again, we're just beginning to fall into some height discrepancies here with the smaller assets, so I'm going to keep correcting all of our main assets back to a same uniform height. And then we'll have this just here, tucked into the side. And then there's already quite a lot of planters on the Creative Arts Institute itself. I think we can get away with surface painting a bit here. Although I want to be careful. Guess I can just push that up, can't I? That'll be fine. And then I'll actually remove the end of the surface here. This pathway can also connect back into the campus. It will eventually, of course, one day come this way. And then we'll also connect the school into that. Now let's grab a bit of suburban fencing. Just to create a bit of a border for our school here. And we'll run this around all the edge of the road. That's also creating an entranceway for them to walk back into here. Realise we are still waiting for the transit hub. But we've got school campuses to detail. We will get it done, I promise. It will be this episode. Probably going to be another long one again. I hope that's okay. Sorry for eating up more time than expected on your Monday. Then a little bit of build guide overgrown for sure. Let's have this. There in the middle. With maybe 1 or 2 trees. Might even go with California palms here actually. I'm not very much enjoying the return of the palm. Couple of rocks. Something like that. You could almost rebrand this as a bit of a football academy, you know. Don't have to say it's a school. It's taking a couple of extra pictures next door and you've got yourself like a football campus, haven't you? Very nice. So just concrete spaces. We'll bring some props in here as well, I imagine. During our detailing time lapse. Which will be fun. And then I also wanted to run the Illium forest around here as well, just as a border between our low density and our road. Super. I'm getting a nice big industrial spike now too, so we'll probably finish that forestry plantation next episode, I reckon. But let's get this high street finished anyway. Let's get to this bus station so we can move into the detailing time lapse. I'm just going to carry on placing the emerging downtowns and career densities all through this space up to the park. And fantastic, there is the milestone of Big Town, 5,500 people, which brings us into city buses and a whole bunch more, which we'll explore in upcoming episodes. But the intercity bus is why we're all here, and what is holding up our detailing. So I want to use some pedestrian-only bus roads for this. We'll share the same pedestrian area that the waterfront is using. Now, I'd like it to come down, I think, from the road of the ferry station. This one isn't going to be bus only actually, so I'll just use regular sandstone. But it'll be the bus only road that holds our intercity station, which is this one right here, which comes from Sunset Harbour DLC, if you're wondering. Intercity buses are a great form of transit. I really like them. I'm going to connect that into there. What I am also going to do, and these new homes, and with advanced building control, we can force historical the entire district. So all these lower level, sensible looking houses, I'm going to be fine with. So that's what I'm doing to keep, rather than pressing every single house, you just use the advanced building control to force all historical in the district. This will come down, and will probably just come out, I think, from here. Move that back a little bit. Just so we get the angle. Let's also stretch our pedestrian area. Just over here as well. We can sever the connection. And I'd love a couple of the Railroad of Japan plazas up here, I think. Let's have two at the front of the ferry. Don't tend to use this asset that often. What sort of clearance do we have at the back of the station, I wonder? Maybe more better served here. And then we will be able to run our first buses out of this as well. Let's factor in our first bus depot. I think now we're just going to have a temporary placement in and around the ferry depot. As the harbour expands, we'll find a more permanent home for them. Now we can finally set up our first bus lines. Is anyone using the ferry? Oh my god, they are. Someone used the ferry. Who are you? Kathleen Walker. Living up to her name, isn't she? Walker by name, Walker by nature. Fantastic. Oh, he's using it as well. Where are you going? You're going to work. Oh, you work at the ferry pier. Okay. You going to get on it? Oh, yeah, he is. So he's actually taking the ferry to work because he works here. Right, I get you. I guess that makes sense. But I'm taking the win anyway. Someone's using it already. There's buses anyway. Let's not get distracted. So you are going to go. What's our current configuration here? I think just a central bus line feeding down from Elk Park, which needs to be renamed. Let the comments name that one actually. Let me know what you want to name the park. Commercial pedestrian waterfront on the west side of Francis here. Comments below. But we'll feed it down the main road, under the bridge, into the industrial port, loop back around and come down. So we'll do a loop. We don't need a mirrored line here. So how are you going to leave? You're going to come back down the pedestrian road, which is what we want. And then we'll stop at every major point of interest, pretty much. Super. So that bus line's running from the intercity station straight the way through, stopping at schools, parks, residential. There will eventually be another transit hub here with a train station, so the bus will come into that hub at some point, and then it just turns around at the school. Immediately from line 1, we will keep on top of these. This is going to be quite a busy bus, I imagine, so I might stick... Red double decker's a bit much, isn't it? Let's do a bendy bus. This will be Francis's main road bus. And I imagine I keep pulling this a little bit further down the coast every time we want to extend it. It'll certainly come under the highway to whatever township lies this side of the main arterial highway system anyway. But otherwise, with buses in and plenty of space to detail. Oh yes, look at that. Look at that. We're all coming in straight away. Hello. One thing I did forget, I realised as I was eating my lunch today, I was like, oh, I didn't hook the keys in with pathways at the points where they're needed most. Right, they can get down here. Yeah, they can get all the way down here, that's fine. That doesn't need any more. So yeah, just there. And then here at the ferry terminal as well. And then the next one's a bit further down. So that's just start drawing significantly more sims through. I think I can also see as well. Sorry, I know we're supposed to be detailing just some final amends. That one through to there. Super. But yeah, there's lots of space to detail around the transit hub. Green space through here. Behind commercial area. The roundabout and the rest of the park assets. I might turn this into a park life park just so I can get gazebos and trampolines and stuff. General fun, family friendly park space. But let's detail up the western side of Francis and then we'll be right back. Alright guys, let's have a little detailing review, shall we? So my ferry port, just the workers and the occasional citizen taking it to actually get back to the highway, but they pocket car and of course drive away. But fun that it's getting used at least, right? Over here on the main street, on the edge of the first build, where we did our church parking detailing, we have some apartment blocks with car parking in between all of this, of course, backing onto the quay with our commercial. And in terms of ridership on the intercity bus station now, we're looking at 52. I imagine this will kick into gear once we get the rest of the buses in and the ferries are connected to something on the other side. But 52 is not bad for a little beginner transit hub here. And watch a bus arrive, of course. There it goes. Very nice. And then, of course, all the detailing around the back of the station. Fountains, bins, a couple of benches. With a little bit of a hole in the surface painted for a tree. Just general space behind building, right? Back of the building also helps detail this area as well with the bins. It just shows, like, paintable surface, even in vanilla, is like, so powerful, isn't it? Just for, like, creating a city. Like, concrete spaces everywhere. Like, and you can't make it in pure vanilla. It's such a shame. But you can... the same again, the back here, right? It just... what an impact. I know I sing about Surface Painter every episode, but I always will. So, this episode is sponsored by Surface Painter, everyone. Basketball courts. Also fun. A little bit of green space down here. With a really nice mix and proper fusing. We haven't really done this since this year, since Emerging Downtown came out. But it's so nice on corners with these angled buildings. Kind of falls away and back into from the actual road itself. That really nice bit of the city, this. Continues behind as well, a little bit of fencing just to block off the gardens with a pathway through the buildings. And then some parking behind here too. Of course, with more functional pathway. Sitting as part of our shops of Shibuya, Hearts of Korea, and Emerging Downtown's waterfront, which is a very nice plopped combination, isn't it? They all really complement each other. Anyone's looking for a bit of waterfront asset inspiration. It's quite a nice mixture of 3 DLCs there, I think. The roundabout has had some basic intersection markings on it, the continuation of the dash lines, alongside a filler on the edge of town here. I'll go into more detail on this when we cover the intersection marking tool episode. I am going to do those videos as I've mentioned this episode before. But yeah, just simple details to elaborate the nodes around here. And some nice flow on the roundabout as well if we do enjoy it ourselves. People coming in, slipping off into Francis. Very tasty. So I love the flow on this, and of course all the overgrowth, and love to see the return of the palm as well. Really missed not using palms in Rannoch. One of my favourite trees probably. And then the park space has had an actual city park in it, which just has a restroom and a cafe, benches and whatnot with some commercial restrooms, and then 2 plazas out the front of the plaza asset, which has all been node controlled and landscaped up to a gazebo at the end. Just so it's sort of a nice fun, cute little park here. And then it tapers off into the cul-de-sac at the end of the pedestrian road there, taking people back onto the waterfront. But all in all, a really nice development for the town of West Francis. Definitely playing with a bit more medium density here with the emerging downtown stuff. A lot of fun to do. We got a massive industrial demand again now, because we're still in this early game where we get huge industry, huge residential, huge industry. So the next episode we'll go and polish off our first modded forestry, which is probably my favourite of the industries. I love forestry builds. So let's see what we can do with some mods in the forest, shall we? An enormous shout out to the patrons and YouTube members bankrolling these videos. With a shout out to our golden patron eggs: Casino, Spartan Angel, Michael W, Bad Wolf, Louis Adlam, Phoenix MD, Blythe, Jamin, and Great C. Thank you so much for your incredible support over there. Really does help support CS1 content on the channel, so I really appreciate it. But I'll shut up and leave it there. Enjoy the cinematics, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.